They thought the Doberman had cornered the toddler. They couldn't have been more wrong. He was the only one paying attention. The sound of a small child hitting a sofa cushion is unmistakable. A soft, heavy thud followed by half a second of silence before the wail. Eloin Mercado heard it from the kitchen and was already moving before the wail arrived. She came into the living room and stopped in the doorway. Her 22-month-old son Silvano was lying face down against the corner of the sofa cushion, with his small blue jacket rumpled up his back and his face pressed into the fabric. The family Doberman, a 4-year-old male named Kestrel, was standing over him, full black coat, full 91 pounds, head lowered, face inches from the back of the child's neck. Eloin was a pediatric occupational therapist, 9 years. She had written incident reports on exactly this scene, large breed dogs standing over prone toddlers with their heads lowered. The literature was clear. The professional framework was clear. The specific muscle pattern she was watching in that dog's shoulders was clear. She crossed the room in 3 strides and got her hand on Kestrel's collar and pulled him back. Kestrel did not resist. He turned his head and looked at her, dark eye to dark eye, and did not move his feet. She had never seen him do that before. Silvano rolled over on the cushion and started to cry. The specific low wail of a toddler who had bumped himself and was more startled than hurt. Eloin scooped him up. She held him against her shoulder. She kept her hand on Kestrel's collar. Her husband Aurelio came in from the garage. What happened? He was standing over him, face down. Aurelio looked at Kestrel. Kestrel looked back at him. The dog's body was calm, but his eyes were on the child in Eloin's arms, with a specific, unbroken focus that Aurelio had never seen in 4 years of owning him. Kes, down. Kestrel lay down. He was standing over him. His face was 6 inches from his neck. Aurelio was quiet for a long moment. That was the first afternoon. It happened again on Wednesday. Silvano was on the play mat with a wooden car, and Kestrel was 3 feet away, lying down, when Silvano suddenly tipped sideways and started to cry. Kestrel was up before the cry finished. He crossed the mat. He lowered his enormous black head 6 inches from Silvano's small face, and he held it there. Eloin pulled him away. It happened Thursday morning. Silvano fell forward from a sitting position on the rug, and Kestrel came from the hallway at a fast trot and lowered his face directly to the toddler's mouth. It happened Friday afternoon. Twice. By Friday evening, Eloin was standing in the kitchen with her hand shaking as she poured a glass of water, and she said the sentence out loud to Aurelio that she had been trying not to say for 3 days. He can't be in the house with Silvano, not like this. Aurelio didn't argue. He had watched the behavior escalate for 3 days. He had watched a dog with no history of aggression start hovering over their child every single time the child made a distressed sound. Every framework he had told him this was how it started. They called Aurelio's brother, who lived in a house 40 minutes outside the city with a large fenced yard. He agreed to take Kestrel for 2 weeks while they figured it out. Aurelio drove the dog over on Saturday morning. Kestrel sat in the passenger seat, looking straight ahead the entire way. When Aurelio opened the door in the driveway, Kestrel didn't get out for a full 10 seconds. He looked at Aurelio. Aurelio looked away. The house was quiet Saturday. It was quiet Sunday. On Monday morning, Silvano fell off the couch and hit his forehead on the coffee table. The wail was different this time, sharper, longer. Elowen picked him up and held ice against the small red bump on his forehead and watched him settle down against her shoulder. He was fine. He was tired. She put him down for a nap. He didn't wake up on time. He was breathing, but he didn't wake when she called his name. His skin was cool. His fingers were curled loose against the mattress in a way she had seen in hospitals, and it took her 3 seconds to recognize what she was looking at. She called 911 with one hand and lifted him with the other, and she was in the driveway with him before Aurelio came in from the garage. The paramedic on the call, a woman named Odessa Petrov, 11 years in pediatric emergency response, got a fingerstick reading in the ambulance. Silvano's blood glucose was 33. Normal for a toddler is above 70. At 33, the brain is minutes from seizure. He had been in a slow hypoglycemic slide, undiagnosed, unrecognized for what the pediatric endocrinologist at the Children's Hospital would later estimate had been at least 4 days. Dr. Yanis Karagounis, 22 years in pediatric endocrinology, sat down with Elowen and Aurelio in a small conference room and told them what he had reviewed in the incoming labs. Congenital hyperinsulinism, rare, underdiagnosed, presence with irritability, crying spells, sudden falls, unexplained distress. He looked at Elowen directly. Another 12 to 15 minutes, and we would be having a very different conversation. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The veterinary behaviorist Elowen consulted the following week a woman named Suniva Cardoso, who had worked with working line breeds for 18 years, was not surprised. Dobermans have a specific breed-typical response to sensory input around household members, she said. During hypoglycemic episodes, the human breath produces isoprene at concentrations dogs detect at parts per trillion. He was pressing his face to your son's mouth every time your son cried because he was reading a chemical signature. He was reporting what he found. Every time he looked up at you, he was telling you. Elowen sat with that for a long time. The 3 days of hovering over a crying toddler. Not aggression, detection. The refusal to move when she pulled his collar. Not defiance. A dog trying to hold his post. The unbroken stare across the room. Not fixation. A warning she had been trained to misread. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Aurelio drove out to his brother's house that afternoon. Kestrel was sitting by the fence when he pulled up. He didn't wag. He walked to the car and got in and sat in the passenger seat and looked straight ahead the whole way home. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Elowen was on the floor of the living room when they came in. Silvano was on the rug beside her with a continuous glucose monitor clipped to his upper arm. Kestrel walked into the room, crossed to the rug, and laid down full length beside the child, chin on his paws, eyes on the small green light of the monitor. Elowyn put her hand on his warm black shoulder. "I'm sorry, Kess." Kestrel exhaled once, long and slow. He didn't move his eyes. He was still watching. The next story involves a dog who wouldn't let a mother enter her own kitchen for 4 days.